Hello friends and welcome to Pathologic Volume 9, Episode 10. Fire up, it's Saturday. I'm off at homecoming today, but I am recording this for you in advance so you'll get your puzzle dosage as usual. Today we have a puzzle that is called Battleships. You may have seen it before, and if you haven't, you'll be familiar with the basic concept because it is loosely based on the board game, which is itself based on an old pencil two-player game. And this has about as much to do with that game as the Minesweeper that we've played here has to do with the digital version of that game. So if you are unfamiliar with it, you will get acquainted very quickly as we take a look at the rules. In Battleships, we place the given fleet of ships into the grid so that no two ships are touching, not even diagonally. So you can see the ships in this example solution, and the not even diagonally is very important. So this two-cell ship can't have another ship in either of these cells because they would be touching at a corner. Rotating ships is permitted, so the bank outside the puzzle doesn't give us orientation. And a clue outside the grid indicates the number of cells in the corresponding row or column that are occupied by ships. The 4 in this column tells us that 1, 2, 3, 4 cells in there are taken up by ships. It's not saying 4 ships. 4 cells have ships. And cells with waves cannot be occupied by a ship. These are just kind of given blanks in the puzzle. A given ship segment must be used as the part of a ship that its shape represents. In our example, we don't have any of those, but it's possible to have a puzzle with, say, a black square in it, and if it had a black square, we would know it was the middle of a ship like this. Or if it was a rounded shape, we would know it was the end of a ship of some length. Those are the rules of Battleships, so it's time to solve the puzzle. Today's Battleships puzzle was set by Tyrgannus. I can mark these zeros immediately as entirely water. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And now I am on the lookout for big and little numbers, as is our typical strategy. Biggest number is an 8, and we have 9 cells out that are remaining in this column, so we can only leave one of them out. And I see that this 5 stretch can't possibly be all one ship. We don't have any 5 long ships in our bank. So the one missing cell has to be one of these, which means these are all ship. And it's going to be like that. I am more familiar with the Puzzlink interface for this puzzle, which allows you to just click on these things at the bottom and gray them out when you've used them. We don't have that here, so I'm going to use a little watermark just to the left of one of these to mark it as used. That'll help me keep it straight. So I'll mark all of these, and now we've got our one that we are allotted in this row, so these all have water in them. And what do we do for the 4 that we need here? We can't have them all be together anymore. We've used up our 4 ship, so it's going to be 1 and 3 or 2 and 2. Either way, these are ships of some variety. What does that tell us about this column? It tells me that these 2 don't have ships in them, because regardless of whether this goes vertically or horizontally or not at all, we can't have anything here because that would violate at minimum diagonal adjacency. So these 2 are not shaded. And I think this can't be shaded because if it were a ship by itself, we'd rule out all 3 of those, and if it went horizontally, well, it can't go horizontally because of this 1, but even if it could, that would force us to have a max of 3 shaded cells in this 5 region, and we need 4. So that's not shaded, so the one that we need is there, so it's a ship that looks like that. So I'm going to mark one of these as used. And then we know that we need to fill in 3 more. So it's these 3. So that's one of these ships. And we've done the one that we get in these 2 columns, or rows rather. 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've got 1 to spare here. We have 1 to spare here, but that's a more interesting one to me because we're in the same situation we were here. If we need to fill 5 of these 6, we can't have the one of the 2 ends be where our water goes because we don't have a 5 long ship. So these have to have ship in them. And if one of these were water, then we'd end up with a 4, which we're also not allowed. So these both have ships. So it's 2 and 3 in some configuration. But a nice thing is that that's used up the 1 that we get in this column. And that should be enough to define this 6 because we only had 1 degree of freedom there. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's used up another one of these 2s. And these 2 are not shaded. Now, what about these? Can these go north? Well, this one can't, obviously, because we've already used the 2 that we get in this column. We'll mark those as water, and that makes this one I guess it's a submarine, a single. And these 2 are not shaded by the diagonal deduction that we talked about earlier. So those 2 are both water. So can this be a 2-cell ship? And I am going to assert that the answer is no, because we've only got 1 left, and we know that between these 2, we're using up a 2-cell and a 3-cell, and we only have those 2. So everything that we have left is a single cell. So that's this one is one of them. So 1, 2, and we've got 2 more to allocate among all of these cells. And we know they have to be in these 2 rows because they both need an extra one. So nothing in here gets any ship in it. This column gets 1 more, so it's there. So that's 1 of the ones we get, and that finishes off this row, and then we get 1 more among these, and it's going to have to go in this column to finish off that 2. So we've used up everything except for the 2 and 3. We just got to disambiguate between those 2, and we can see in this column we're going to need another one. So this is the water, and this one is going to be a ship. And that is how you solve a Battleships puzzle.